Yes, the boys, the girls, the guys and the gals. Right, gang. I'm going to go back to town and do the Edward Wightman video again. Now, Edward Wightman, I've done this video about 4 months ago, but I feel like I might be a little bit of a better creator nowadays, so I'm going to go and redo it. And we're going to have it horizontal, which is half the reason that I'm going to redo it. Another thing as well, thank you so much for anyone that's brought me a coffee. Like, it's unbelievable. The generosity of people is absolutely insane. Especially for a boy that came from the Dimbles, do you know what I mean? I can't get my head around it, like, I really can't get my head around it. Right, another thing as well, I keep getting asked to do shout outs and stuff like that. But the thing is, if I'd done a shout out for everyone that asked, it'd be a 2-hour video with just shout outs. So I've decided what I'm going to do, anyone that drops me a coffee into the buy me a coffee thing, on there I can send you a video. So if you put whoever wants to shout out or anything like that in the coffee thing, I'll do a video for it. I'll shout you out in a video. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, in reality, I just don't have the time to shout everyone out. I'd love to. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling. Let's get into it, gang.
In April of 1612, something happened in the market square Lichfield that would mark the end of an era in England. A man named Edward Wightman was tied to a stake and burned alive. It was not for murder and not for treason. Edward Wightman died for heresy, and more specifically, became the last person in England to be burned at the stake for holding religious beliefs that the authorities considered dangerous. But Wightman's story is stranger than most people realise, because he wasn't burned just once. He was burned twice. Edward Wightman was born in 1566, somewhere near Hinckley in Leicester, and later he lived in Burton-on-Trent. By trade he was a mercer, otherwise known as a cloth merchant, a respectable occupation in a busy market town. He was married and was at it like rabbits, as he had 7 children. For many years he appeared to be an ordinary member of the community, but somewhere along the way his religious beliefs began to drift further and further away from the teachings of the Church of England. By the early 1600s, Wightman had developed a series of radical ideas. He rejected the Holy Trinity, questioned established Christian doctrine, and began promoting beliefs connected to anti-Trinitarian movements that the Church had considered deeply dangerous. But one claim in particular shocked the authorities. According to the accusations recorded against him, Wightman declared that he himself was the Holy Spirit promised by Christ. In early 17th century England, that kind of statement was not simply controversial. It was considered outright blasphemy, and challenging the Church's core teachings wasn't just a religious matter, it was political as well. The monarch at the time, King James I of England, was also the supreme governor of the Church of England, so rejecting official doctrine could quite easily be seen as challenging the authority of the state itself. Church officials began investigating Wightman's teachings. He was questioned repeatedly by senior clergy and brought before the church courts, where theologians attempted to persuade him to withdraw his beliefs, but Wightman refused. Eventually, he was formally declared a heretic. Once that judgment was made, the case passed from church courts into the hands of the state, and the order was issued for the punishment that had been long reserved for heresy, being burnt at the stake. In 1612, Edward Wightman was taken to Lichfield Market Square and tied to the stake. A crowd gathered and the fire was lit, but as the flames rose around him, Wightman suddenly cried out that he would recant his beliefs, and because of this, the execution was stopped. He was pulled from the fire, badly burnt but still alive, and for a moment it seemed possible that the ordeal might end there. But the story didn't finish that day. After recovering enough to stand before the authorities again, Wightman appeared in court once more, and this time he withdrew his recantation. Not only that, but he began defending his views again, repeating the same teachings that had led to his condemnation in the first place. For the church authorities, this proved that he had no intention of abandoning what they saw as dangerous ideas. Another order was issued, and the execution would go ahead again. On the 11th of April 1612, Edward Wightman was brought back to the same spot in Lichfield, back to the same stake, and this time there would be no interruption. The fire was lit once more, and Wightman was burned until nothing remained but ashes and teeth. His death quietly marked the end of something much larger than one man's story. For centuries, burning at the stake had been used in England as a punishment for heresy, a brutal warning to anyone who openly challenged religious authority. But after Edward Wightman's execution, the practice effectively disappeared. Although the law technically remained on the books for decades, no one in England would ever again be burnt for heresy. Eventually, the punishment itself was abolished in 1677, which means the man who died in Lichfield that day holds a grim distinction in history. Edward Wightman wasn't just executed for his beliefs. He became the last heretic England never burnt. So the next time you're buying plums or printer ink, have a think about Edward Wightman and the fires that raged in this area.